Welcome to Practical Healthy Living. I'm your host, Dr. Alan Thomalla. We have a really great show for you today. We're joined by author Michelle Reinglass from her home in sunny California, and by Claudia Edwards, Executive Director of Preble Arts Center in picturesque Eaton, Ohio. Before we get started, however, because this is our initial voyage as a podcast, let me just share a few things with you so you know your way around a bit. This show is broken down into a couple of distinct segments that recur each week. We always start with this stellar introduction, thank you very much, and a segment called Something Positive. We here at Practical Healthy Living, or PHL, believe that there's not enough positive news in the world today, so we want to make sure that you have at least one positive fact that you can rely on each week. Today's Something Positive is the Preble Arts Center, which we will get to in just a few minutes. The next segment is our feature story, which consists of a practical healthy living topic called On Topic. See what we did there? The show's called Practical Healthy Living, so our feature story is a practical healthy living topic. You're welcome. We stayed up hours figuring that one out. To close our show, we will always end with a practical healthy living tip of the week. As you feel yourself pulled in so many directions, this tip is our gift to you. It's our way of saying, because you're always giving to others, bosses, customers, relationships, cats, dogs, don't forget that you're worthy of positive things in your life too. Occasionally, we will have a segment called Duels to Duets. We live in a world that has become increasingly polarized and tribal. We here at PHL believe it is our responsibility to not only offer news that is positive, but also to offer perspectives that can heal. We have created this segment specifically to provide a forum for traditionally opposing factions. We want Republicans and Democrats, police and Black Lives Matter, Christians and Muslims, etc., to respectfully talk about their differences and to set an example for others how to live together peaceably. Another segment we will occasionally have is called Paying the Reaper. When you're 18 to 30 years old, most people, with some exception, can get away with a lot in terms of diet, bad habits, and behavior. Eventually, for everyone, however, you have to make a down payment on your continued life by giving certain things up. We call this paying the reaper. Rather than getting all gloomy about this, let's celebrate finally treating ourselves well. Now, sit back and enjoy the show, starting with this week's Something Positive. As we zoom to Eaton, Ohio, Claudia, can you tell our viewers about the Preble Arts Center, what makes it special, and maybe give us a tour?
This building was built in 1897. And we went through the renovation in 2019, established in the early 60s. And since then, we've had a couple of locations, but we've been, downtown. We had a building there further down the road. And in the 90s, early 90s, it burned down. So we built a new infrastructure on Hillcrest Drive, where we were located up until late 2019, when we renovated or decided to move downtown to provide access to more people to the arts. And then we purchased this building. It used to be two separate buildings. This is a picture of what we used to have in the early 40s in this building. And it was a homeware store. And they sold washing machines and dishes and things like that. And you can we kept a lot of that, like hardwood floors. The ceiling is original. Some of the light fixtures, we repurposed and included them in the renovation. And you can see them throughout the front of the building. My background is actually psychology, is what I have my degree on. And I used to work with children. And art is something that's always been dear to my heart. And so over time, I I always wanted to explore painting, and I never had the opportunity to do it. This is our sales gallery, and it's a space where any local artist can display their artwork and have it for sale. It's important for us to support local artists, so anybody's welcome to bring your artwork, and we'll provide them with a space. People are really taking the time to come in, and they're liking what we're doing here. And so especially with the first responders program, we have seen a huge following, especially with teachers. But we have a very, very large group of people that are so thankful that we have this available for them. This space is where we teach ceramics, and we have wheels, and you can throw pottery here. So we like to keep small groups so that the students can have more one-on-one time with the instructor and have more fun. So basically they come in, and when we clean up, we put all the tools out, but this is the wheel, and this would be their pedal, and they can sit here and throw pottery, and the instructor walks them through step by step on the basic skills like centering, and then building and creating different shapes. Since we have almost 15,000 square feet, it hasn't been that difficult to stay safe and keep everyone safe, because we have so many different rooms, and we have 2 entrances with 2 exits, right? So people can come in from one end and can go through the building without, brushing up or going through everyone else. And we are constantly disinfecting and constantly, keeping things clean so that everyone is healthy and safe. But given the many areas that we have, and the students stay close together or stay together, and those are, always working together, then we minimize exposure too. We have our annual fundraiser coming up. It's called Batter Good Folk. And we select 9 individuals from the community that hold some sort of leadership position. And they create a piece of art. And then they have their own little micro events to raise funds. And October 2nd will be our live auction dinner. And so these are going to be the centerpieces for our event. There is the Big Pork Festival here in Preble County. And we're trying to marry that, something that's symbolic of Preble County with Wayne County, which is the Richmond Rose Garden. So we chose that, and we're going to put roses in the little centerpieces and after auction as well. But all these other items are from students and what they're making right now. They continue to struggle at work with the pandemic that's still around, and then also it's impacting their mental health. It impacts their interactions at home, right? Because everything has changed, and we live in the American culture is so focused on work, and everything else kind of goes around that. And so it was hard for families and communities to be, at home so much at first. But I think that we're seeing that, and part of the reason why there's been such a change in workforce is because they're experiencing what it is like to not work so much and to be able to be home with their children and with their spouses and their family members. This is a show that we had a few weeks ago. It's a one-man show. It is called Legends of Whitewater Gorge. Those are jazz musicians who recorded in Richmond, Indiana, in the Gannett studio. So all of these paintings are Brazilians. And that piano was part of the show. It's a Star piano. And it was built in Richmond, Indiana, and you can see the logo on there still where it says Star in Richmond, Indiana. And so we wanted to bring part of the history and share that with our guests. We had close to 100 guests that night for the opening reception, and then we had music in the gallery and live jazz music. We're working right now on developing a music composition class, and we're going to offer a trumpet class, ukulele, and guitar lessons, and also a poetry class. Mm-hmm. So we're kind of expanding and trying to offer more forms of art to the community. We have classes for children and adults. And so our guests or students vary in age and demographics, which is really nice to have. And then we also are offering free ceramics classes to first responders. The First Responders program is a new developed program that started with my idea while I was going through downtown Eaton. I drove through by the fire station, and coming through the pandemic and what we were experiencing last year and into this year, I wanted to do something nice for the first responders and the essential workers. They have been out in the front lines and working already in a stressful environment, in a very demanding environment, like it is, the ER, or being an EMS, or being a mental health worker. So those jobs are already stressful and demanding, and that was, exponentially made worse by the pandemic. So that's where the thought started, that I wanted to do something to recognize them and to not only thank them for their work, but I wanted to provide a space where they can come in and do art and be creative in a form of self-care. So nurses and social workers, we get a lot of teachers too, and we get personnel from the fire department, and we also get folks from Wayne County, Indiana, Stark County, Montgomery County, Ohio. So we're not just serving Preble County, we are actually expanding and reaching out the surrounding areas. Yeah, but I just love creating. It's a big part of who I am. And if I'm not creating art, I'm creating in the form of developing programs and in the business end of it. But I've worked in the nonprofit sector for several years. And when I found this place and they called me and wanted me to interview for the job, of course I accepted, and I fell in love with the building and especially with the mission. It's difficult to find a job that you believe in what they're doing, especially in the nonprofit sector. And so it was a win-win situation for me because I do believe in the mission, and so I can support it wholeheartedly. And we offer so many varieties of art to so many people that to me it was a huge opportunity. I'm pretty grateful to be here.
Welcome back, friends, to Practical Healthy Living's On Topic. Today, we're very fortunate to have with us Michelle Reinglass. Michelle, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello, Alan. Thank you so much for having me here. I appreciate it. So I am a reformed lawyer turned mediator after having a long career as a lawyer. And I'm also an author, a co-author of one book, and I have my own book that is coming out soon. So I'm a pending author on that, and also speaker. So that's a little summary. Because my book coming out is on balance, so somebody called me in one of my programs I was in, the Balance Girl. So I'll add that.
Before the show, we were talking, and it intrigued me that you were talking about the stress-edemic. Can you tell us what the stress-edemic is?
Yes, that is actually a word I coined, but I think it fits perfectly as this pandemic seems to be dissipating. Well, except for maybe the variants and things like that. But we've had this stress-edemic for much longer, and there's no vaccine for it. It's something that has been affecting everybody in droves. And what it's doing is it's been causing people to feel this, to experience stress physically, mentally, and emotionally. And it's really right now in epic proportions. So that's why I call it a stress-edemic.
Tell me, Michelle, what led to your interest in the field of balance?
It was actually being imbalanced or unbalanced in my own life. And my whole family was very busy all the time. And so that was sort of an environment that felt natural to me. When you cross the threshold and become an unhealthy unbalance, I don't know that people necessarily recognize it as such. I certainly did not. I just knew it didn't feel right. And as a result, I kept trying to figure out ways to feel better. And so I started studying Louise Hay. She was my first guru in personal development book. She wrote on balance. And so I learned about meditation and affirmations and all sorts of, wonderful ideas from her, and thought that that was my magic key, but it still wasn't feeling like I was balanced. And it seemed like I just kept being busier and busier, and I didn't know where everything was coming from and how did this happen to me? That's how we think about these things. So it was that plopped me onto the journey, which ultimately led to recognizing the need for people to be in balance. And so that was the beginning stages.
Okay, great. What are some simple steps that people can take to begin a new lifestyle in balance?
There are a number of things that people could do, and I'd like to recommend for starters, the 4 M's. The most important thing about balance is there's a phrase that how you do one thing is how you do everything, or how you do anything is how you do everything. And that's pretty much a truism when you start looking at your life. If you're imbalanced, you're going to have imbalance in just about every part of your life. So it brings me back to, if I were to recommend things to get you completely unbalanced, in balance, you'd feel overwhelmed. And so, like with anything else, we've developed habits that have created the situation we're in now. And so it's not so much unlearning habits, it's learning different habits. And so I recommend them in bite-sized stages. So I have the 4 M's I like to recommend. So the first one is having the motivation to want to do something different. Like I was mentioning in my life, I knew I wasn't really happy. I was happy, I had joy, but I wasn't quite at ease. And I couldn't figure out why. So that was my motivation. I wanted to figure out, how do I get to that stage? I don't even know what I'm looking for, but you're motivated. The second one, which really is, in so many ways is really the first, but I think it needs to come second in this particular answer. And that's mindset. I always say everything starts and ends with mindset, because our mindset is everything and it controls everything. And it basically, it's in control of our lives. It can be if we let it be. And most of the time we do. So getting into the right mindset, then what starts happening is you start learning to change your thoughts. You start learning to be aware of your thoughts. That's what I call conscious mindset. Being aware of how we're thinking about ourselves. How many times, it's too much to get into this, but I'll just dive into one part. I like to talk about rituals. But when you get up in the morning, and what are the first things you do? And I always start with gratitude. But what's another thing we do? A lot of people walk into the bathroom. They either have to go to the bathroom, or they're going to brush their teeth, or what are they going to do? They look in the mirror and we denigrate ourselves most of the time. So those are negative thoughts that are actually impacting us, physically and mentally. And so it's the mindset is just so important. So being conscious of what your thoughts are is really important in terms of that. So we've got motivation, we've got mindset. Another way of clearing our minds. We have clutter in our heads. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of dust and cobwebs and all sorts of stuff like that. And so if we don't clear it out, there's no room for new ideas. There's no room for new thoughts. There's no room for anything. And so what happens is when there are ideas or there's things that we need to be thinking about, it's kind of squeezing itself into that head. And so that's where meditation comes in. And I know some people groan at the thought of it. They say, I tried it. I get, monkey mind and, I can't stop my thoughts. Well, welcome to the club, because that is everybody. Everybody has that kind of mind stuff going on. But the main thing is just getting still and setting aside actual time that is for you to be quiet. You don't have to speak it just because there's words going on in your head, but be mindful of, aware of what those words are. So we've got motivation, we've got mindset, we've got meditation, and then a fourth M is movement. Our bodies, our minds need to be moved. So every single day, it doesn't mean you have to go out and run a marathon or go, hiking or, do some major athletics. Any movement of your body is good to start. So for people who aren't used to exercise, I say start with really good stretching. And there's a number of things online, wonderful programs that teach you how to stretch and not get injured. Yes, people can injure themselves by the movements that they're making. So those are the four to get people started. And what I recommend is trying to stay on that path for at least 1 week. Try to do all four of those things. And if you mess up, it's okay. Give yourself grace, because everybody on the planet has messed up on that. So it would be like, just maybe as an incentive, what I like to do, and I have done this when I've sort of fallen off the wagon. For example, there's times I was too busy to meditate. And then once you miss a meditation, it's like, oh God, I'm too busy the next day. And all of a sudden I realize 4 days go by. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it in my mind. I'm feeling it in my head. So I'm going to now start a new a ritual. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to start day 1 as if I was just starting over forever. So, and just kind of until you can get to 7 days, and then you can work on further goals. So that's a start.
Excellent. That's very good advice. Do you find that when you do get off track, it's as the result of some stressful situation that's come up and derails you?
It usually is. Everybody's schedule, that comes back to what I was just mentioning, is rituals. Our schedules are busy. Everyone's busy. We're much busier than we ever were, 10 years ago, and then maybe even more than 30 years ago, and different lifestyles. And while everybody says that all of these wonderful technologies and social media things are great conveniences, I think they have expanded and exploded our busyness to.
They have a dark side.
Absolutely, absolutely have a dark side. And so getting to that point, you just kind of go, I don't have time. Stop right there. And this is what all of us have to take stock of. There isn't an unguilty person that I know, unless they've never touched social media, unless they don't have a cell phone, unless they never watch TV. But what happens is, if people think about what they do for a day, just one day, they'd be shocked at how many hours we're scrolling through the phone, scrolling through your Facebook or your Instagram, gabbing on the phone. That's a good thing. But if you're doing that all day long, how much time is spent on watching television? Now, so that's the type of thing, is if in fact there is 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes found in any one of those things, you've got time to meditate. What's really happening is it's not being prioritized. And the reason it's not being prioritized is because it's not something that's ingrained in you yet. And you don't really know what the benefits are. I just got started on this. It's after you start doing it. And then when you miss a day, you'll feel it. And I feel it's kind of like being bloated, because I'll notice that I'm less creative. I'm stuck kind of in a wheel of thoughts, meaning I might be ruminating more on something that wasn't as pleasant as I would have liked it to be, instead of, okay, move on. You messed up, move on. No, I'm ruminating on it. Now I want to persist on it. Nothing good's coming into my head. It doesn't have space because I'm clouded up. So that's why I recommend at least a week. It takes longer than that to develop a habit. I'm not saying develop a habit yet. I'm just saying try to get into a flow and see how that works. Cool.
We have to pause here for a break, but we'll be right back with Michelle Reinglass. Please stand by. Welcome back, friends. We're returning here to speak to Michelle Reinglass. Michelle, tell me about the two books that you're currently involved with.
Thank you, Alan. I actually have a book that is birthing soon, and that is my book on balance. But before I get into that, before it was even close to finishing, I was invited to be a co-author with a total of 30 women authors in a book called Women Who Empower. So with that
what an honor.
I felt very honored by it. And somebody I had met in another program who had, she had a #1 bestseller. And I said, how did you do that? And she told me about this book group, and Kate Butler is the publisher. And Kate has, she's a publisher for all types of books, but one of her niches is collaborative books. So anyway, I got to be part of that group. Actually, I didn't even know what the title was when I initially was like, oh my God, I don't have time. I work full time as a mediator. I'm writing this balance book. How can I dedicate more time, to another book? And then I started thinking, that is the silliest thinking you've ever had. And I have an opportunity to actually get another one done. And it was going to publish before mine would. And we each got to do a chapter. And I would learn some more about the book writing and the publishing process, which would only help me with my books. I thought, I'll just go ahead and do this. And it was the best thing I've ever done.
Before we talk about your book, can you tell us where could someone find Women Who Empower?
Thank you for asking. It is on Amazon. And we have the original book, which Kate Butler has published but I was one of the featured authors. As a result, I have one that has my own personalized cover on it. And if you just put in at Amazon, Women Who Empower, Michelle Reinglass, that will bring it right up.
Tell me about the book that you're writing solo.
So after attending 2 conferences a year for a bunch of organizations, that was the year I decided I'm going to take a break this fall. So I'm not attending the mediation conference. It was going to be in Austin, Texas. I'd never been there and I'd heard it was cool, but I thought I'm going to just take care of me. And I get an email from one of the members of the group who said, hey, Michelle, are you coming to Austin? We want you to speak. And I wrote back, oh, thank you so much. I'm honored, but I'm not going this year. Now you would think that's the end of that. They wrote back, well, we still think that you should see, you need to reconsider. That was it. And we still think that you should be speaking at this program. So I said, well, I really, thank you so much. I'll catch you on the next one. And then I got a third one. And this was joined by two of the members. And finally I had to say, what is the topic? And they said, balance. And if I was sitting on a chair, I would have fallen off it, but I about fell off. I said, have you met me? That was my response. You guys, I am so imbalanced. How could you even possibly want me to talk about balance? And they said, well, we disagree and we think you're the perfect person to do it. So I said, let me think about it for at least overnight, because that's one of the things I always do. I just say, sure, I'll do it. And so it's learning. So I'm going to do this, get out my hair, trying to, please people. And I decided to do my own balanced version of it. And in doing that, I was going up late the night before, and I was going to come back a day early. So that was my giving myself a little break. So it turns out it was a breakout session. And we have about 150, I'm guessing, people that were there. And so they would have 8 to 10 of these breakout sessions. and people can attend however many they want, but so we were doing that. We also had to repeat it in the afternoons. We did one in the morning and repeated in the afternoon. So we were stunned at the high number of people that were there in our program. And in fact, we had pulled a few tables together and chairs, and we had to just keep branching out, and we had people from all over the world. I learned some things from two women, some fabulous women from India. And in fact, I'm incorporating that into the book. And so anyway, it was just we all had a great time, and the program went really well. Then when we went to the afternoon one, we thought for sure that'll be a smaller crowd. It was another large crowd. So I started realizing there's a lot of people who need balance. Oh my goodness. Still nothing came into my head as like an idea or anything, but people started saying, remember I told you I'm leaving early. So I'm like, goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. And people are saying, you have to write a book. I'm like, you're so funny, you guys. And, but the universe had other ideas. So I get back to my town, and I'm immediately contacted by someone local, said, hey, I heard you did this balance program in Austin, Texas. Would you do it for us? I said, who'd you hear that from? Oh, a little birdie, so I said, sure. So I did it for that program, and we had a lot of fun. Because it was my local bar association, I was able to have some fun. And I went to a store I know that has these painted rocks. So I got rocks that have balance and different words on it, peace, calm. So I brought rocks for everybody in the group. So I thought, okay, that was fun, and I'm done. Then I got asked to speak for a federal court. I went, okay, sure. That was a little more stodgy and a little more everybody in suits. And in fact, when I have people stand up to join in things, they're like, really? We have to do stuff? So it's a different crowd.
Balance if it pleases the court.
Please, exactly. So, and then I was asked by someone else. And so it just sort of mushroomed. And simultaneously, as I'd go out on my runs or walks, I started listening to podcasts. My sister got me into that, listening to those. Thank you, Beth, if you're listening to this. And one of the podcasts, all of a sudden they start talking about balance, and they started talking about different facets of balance. So I literally stopped, pulled over, if you will, and started dictating some of those into my notes, program. I don't know what I was going to do with it. Something made me think, okay, they're talking about balance. I probably should, in case I'm speaking again on this.
Do you have a website that people could go to so that they could keep track of or be notified when it's completed and published?
Yes, I appreciate you asking that. First, I'll tell you what my website is. It's www.reinglass, REINGLASS, ADR.com. It's in revamp mode, so it still has everything in it. But when you come in, there is a place you can put your name and your email address, and then we will notify you. This gives you two things. We'll notify you when the book is ready to launch. And if people want to be part of the launch party and the launch team, I'll be soliciting those. But also just to get notified about the status of the book. And we have a free giveaway. I have 2 meditations. My dear friend, Janet Whitney, who's a psychologist also, and my long time running friend, she created these meditations for me. So one is called Power, for the women who empower. It doesn't have to be just for that book. And she created one on balance. So we have for my balance book. So people can download those for free. So just putting in their name and their email address, and then we will put them on a list just to notify about the book. And if they're interested in knowing more when it's ready, I'd love it. If they're not, I'm not offended.
Well, that's fabulous.
The title of my balance book is How to Break Free from Addiction to Busy. So,
what an appropriate title for these days.
Yep, it was eye-opening when I finally realized what the underpinnings were of my being out of balance. It only took me 2 autoimmune conditions and a green smoothie spill, slip and fall, concussion to wake me up that all the things I was doing were not enough, because I kept carrying my same baggage with me everywhere I went. I transformed from being a lawyer to a mediator, telling everybody I have plenty of time now for everybody, and couldn't figure out why I don't have time. Why am I so busy?
Did those events happen before or after people were asking you to do things on balance?
I would say those are things that have been happening probably my whole life, or at least my adult life. And as I said, we were a busy household with my family. We just all had tasks all the time. But I guess more to the point, was I became a lawyer, started realizing we were very much disrespected by a number of people, shall we say. Women were not recognized. We were small in numbers. And like you could literally be in a meeting and let's say there's 2 women in the room or 1 woman in the room, and you try to participate, you definitely not get called on. But if you managed to get some words out, no one's listening to you. So, and by the way, I still to this day, I'll be on, in different rooms, for example, on Clubhouse, and I'll be hearing these strong women MDs, women lawyers, women professionals, busy professionals. The same thing is still going on today. And that when I was my first experience in this was decades ago. So you think we've evolved, and we have evolved. I don't mean to make it say like it's the same thing as it was when I first went into practice, but so the few women friends that I was able to find and put into my club, so to speak, at least we had people we could sit and go, tell me about your experiences. Yeah, tell me about your experiences. And then we went from 2 to 4 to 8 to 10. But we all there was a common feeling was we had to be more, we had to do more, we had to always do better. So whereas there were people who'd walk into court and, again, by the way, I don't mean to demean any gender, sex, or whatever, but men could get away with, I forgot to send that to you, Judge. I'll get that over to you. But a woman would be frowned on, and it was like you felt it. You felt like, okay, she's a woman. So I think we all sort of felt we were part of. We had to take one for the other, so to speak. So it's not just doing it for your own respect; it's doing it for the respect of all women, and that's how we felt. And I realized my piling on for myself, at least piling all those things on, created this burden, this overload that I was carrying. So I can actually visualize baggage, carrying with me from life to life, from being a lawyer to a mediator. And why am I doing this? And I realized how long it took me a while to accept this, because I don't think any of us ever like to accept our dark sides. But it took me a while to realize I was pretty much masking myself, and under this busyness, I'm busy, so therefore I'm productive, and therefore I'm successful, or so masking behind what appears to be a put together have it together person, feeling completely like I'm twirling plates all the time. So
isn't it interesting how God or the universe conspires for the person who needs to know about balance, knowing that the best way to teach you balance is to have you teach others balance?
So exactly true. And I can't remember, I just read this recently. It was a statement that somebody said that people end up learning about themselves, and that's what makes them right. So, or they have a need to learn about themselves, and that's what makes them right. I'm thinking, interesting. And then another phrase I'd read a long time ago was people write about the things they need to learn.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you for joining us today. We've run out of time here, but we'd like to have you come back when your book is published, and perhaps we can talk some more, carry this discussion on further.
Oh, you're so kind. I love to. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's an honor to be on your show. So thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Yogurt is one of the most wholesome snacks in our repertoire of treats, right? Or is it? If you look at the ingredient labels of most yogurt containers, there's always a few surprises. Here, we have a brand name container of what appears to be light strawberry yogurt and a house brand container of a low-fat strawberry yogurt. The light yogurt contains cultured grade A non-fat milk, strawberries, water, modified cornstarch, a stabilizing thickening agent, sugar, kosher gelatin, a thickening agent and food adhesive, citric acid, a thickening preservative, adding a tart flavor, natural flavor, maybe the water, tricalcium phosphate, an anti-caking agent, potassium sorbate, a preservative and form of salt, acesulfame, potassium, an artificial sweetener, sucralose, another artificial sweetener, red number 40, which is a dye, vitamin A acetate, a form of retinol, and vitamin D3. There's no active yogurt cultures listed there, but it's got cultured grade A non-fat milk, so there's that. The house brand yogurt contains cultured grade A low-fat milk, sugar, strawberries, water again, fructose, more sugar, modified food starch, making yogurt thick again, natural and artificial flavors, vegetable juice for color, like beet juice, kosher gelatin, the thickening agent and food adhesive, carrageenan, a thickening and emulsifying food preservative, sodium citrate, a salty preservative, malic acid, a flavoring agent to give food a tart flavor, vitamin A palmitate, like retinol, only retinol, to attach to alcohol when vitamins are lost, making milk products low fat, vitamin D3, and L-acidophilus, an actual active yogurt culture. Most quality healthy yogurts have multiple live active cultures. I've seen some with 5 or 6 varieties. Anytime a food is manufactured to remain on the shelf for a while, it's always going to contain preservatives. When the Food and Drug Administration approved such chemicals for human consumption, I think they believed that, well, in a healthy diet, a minuscule amount of preservatives is not going to hurt anyone. But what happens 30 years later, however, when 95% of the foods manufactured in the United States contain such chemicals? It reminds me of plastic that used to be used sparingly and was thought to be benign until it was found decades later floating around our oceans in vast 1.6 million square kilometer clumps of chemical trash. Food chemicals are no longer the exception. So the best way to lower the preservative load in our diet and the diets of our children is to buy or prepare clean food. You know, the other issue I'm concerned about here is not really being discussed. Why the hell are there 3 to 4 thickening agents in yogurt? Yogurt is already thick, so why do you have to thicken it? Unless you're really thickening the water you added to make it cheaper to produce. Water was the 4th ingredient in each product. How can this even legally be called yogurt as opposed to yogurt-like food product? Oh wait, one of the label containers reads, a creamy, delicious alternative to our original style yogurt with only 80 calories and 1 gram of added sugar. But it's yummy. I guess despite the low price, though, these items are not really such a great value. So what do you do if you want clean, nutritious snacks for yourself or your kids? When I was growing up, I had a neighbor a few houses down, Mickey Jovic. He would eat paste out of the paste jar at school. Who knew that he was just ahead of his time and was simply researching yogurt alternatives? Anyway, let's not go down that route. Let's explore how easy it is to make healthy, clean yogurt cups at home that can be taken to work or school and last a week in the refrigerator. Start with some fresh strawberries. Organic are best, but you should still wash them before you prepare them. Take a sharp knife and cut away the green stems and save those for your compost bin. You can put a few of the strawberry pieces directly into the yogurt. Oh wait, that's angel food cake. Great, now I'm going to have to eat some dessert. I hate it when that happens. Anyway, place the rest of the strawberries into a blender or food processor. Put the yogurt into a mixing bowl and add the strawberry puree from the blender and whisk together thoroughly. Next, set up your snack cup containers. I really like the tiny glass jars, but if your child starts discarding them after lunch with their paper bag, it could become costly. I always recommend a lunchbox that comes back home. It can be reused and keeps trash out of the landfill. There are, however, more economical plastic snack cups available. You just have to decide what's best for you and your family. Fill each snack cup with your yogurt mixture. There's no need to add preservatives or thickeners because these items are thick already and are made fresh and will be consumed within the week. Now, sometimes I do add a dash of lime juice to my yogurt because I like the taste. But I've also found that this is actually a natural preservative. Also, if you like thicker yogurt snack cups, just use Greek yogurt. When your cups are filled, secure their lids and place them in the refrigerator. Next morning, just pop them into your lunchbox. If you have a refrigerator at work or school, you can just set them inside until lunch. If you do not have access to refrigeration, get a hold of some freezer packs to add to your lunchbox. I have found wrapping them in a paper towel and placing them in a plastic bag will prevent them from sweating. So concludes this week's practical healthy living tip of the week. And that does it for us this week at Practical Healthy Living. Sincerely, thank you for tuning in. Please join us again next week as we explore prayer, positive thought, and healing lives. Guests will include the Dr. Reverend David Chatka and the one and only Mickey Royal. Until then, stay well and keep exploring with the power of practical healthy living.